I've been sitting on this video idea for way too long, and I'm so excited to finally actually be doing it. Of course, I wanted to wait until the week that the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and S were both coming out, and that's this week. So I can finally make this video game consoles as Transformers. I'm gonna redesign the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and the Nintendo Switch all into these mini Transformers, and I'm gonna rewrite elements of the video game console wars into a sort of Transformers war. That might require more elaboration, but you'll get it once we get into the story, which I kinda wanna just get right into. So I'll finish off the opening with my usual spiel of hitting the like button always helps with algorithm stuff, and if you're new here, I recommend subscribing and hitting the bell to get notified when pop culture, art, story kinds of videos like this come out twice a week on this channel. But anyway, I've waited way too long to make this video, I'm super excited, so let's go! The war for Cybertron is a well-documented event, with many tales told of the raging war between the Autobots and Decepticons. But on the moons of Cybertron, a lesser-known war has raged for far longer amongst some smaller combatants. The Minicon wars have gone on for decades over who is the superior creed of Minicon. Generations of Minicons have come and passed, and with each new one, the tides turn and new armies take the lead in the war, with no real end in sight. But a major shift is imminent. One of the biggest three groups is that of the X-Bots. While they had been a later addition to the war than other armies, they were a force to be reckoned with right off the bat. They came out hitting hard, with their first general being a master of combat. Eventually, his leadership would be overtaken by the great X-Bot general, Thresext, who would lead the group to many great victories. Thresext introduced some new, massively effective weapons technology to the X-Bots that made them far more formidable warriors. With their upgraded plasma pistols, rocket launchers, and viciously effective chainsaws, they put themselves solidly in the lead of the war. For a time. Sadly, they could not hold this lead for long, as the Plasians would slowly rise in power until they were the dominant force of the war once more. A new general came and went for the X-Bots after Thresext, but now a new, heavy contender comes to take command and bring new hope to the clan. Referred to simply as X-Bot X, the new commander is a heavy hitter built like a fridge. He has the full advantage of all past weaponry with a new upgraded arsenal, being faster and stronger and certainly sturdier than his predecessor. Aided by his first hand, X-Bot S, these two are poised to lead the X-Bot army with a steadfast lust to regain all the power their clan had once held under the reign of Thresext. But will it be enough? Only time will tell. Now, the thing that initially got me really excited to do this video was how different of a vibe the Xbox Series X gave off from the PlayStation 5. Like, I looked at both of them and right away I could already feel some character traits from them, because the Xbox is very stocky and thick and, like people have said on the internet, built like a fridge, like it's just a sturdy block. And the PlayStation 5 is a little bit taller, slimmer, a little bit more, I guess, like elegant, almost Apple product kind of looking, like a bit more futuristic. So I just had ideas for the proportions of the characters right off the bat. This one I knew I wanted to be thicker and have more rigid, blocky kind of shapes to it. I also worked in elements from the controllers for all of these because I needed a little bit more to go off of, especially with the Xbox, because it's just a black box with a bit of a grid on the top, which I worked into the torso and one of the arms. And then, like I would do in my famous Vehicles as Transformers episodes, I took a character related to the technology that I'm using and worked in design elements from them to give me a little bit more to work with. So with this, I worked in Master Chief's helmet, because Halo is obviously the biggest franchise for Xbox, and then I also worked in a chainsaw from Gears of War, because personally that was always my favorite Xbox franchise. Honestly, with this one, besides the pose feeling a little bit boring, I don't think this could have turned out better in terms of how I was picturing it in my head, translating it onto the screen. Really happy with this one. I think it's a good representation of the Xbox X, and I hope you all like it as well. Here's the finished version. Now, Xbot X's main competitor was taking command at almost the exact same time as him. Plasia 5 was the direct descendant of the previous general, Plasia 4, and he was poised to take the Plasian army to their final victory. As his name suggests, Plasia 5 was the 5th general to lead the Plasian army. They were nothing if not consistent. They'd also not been one of the original armies in the fight, though they had entered the fray a generation before the Xbots, giving them a bit more experience. And when they came into the fight, they came in swinging. Their fury entering the war is a large part of what helped stomp out the lights of the Sagon army, the remnants of which would eventually join forces with one of the other biggest players in the war, the Ninetons. The Ninetons had always been one of the heavy hitters in the Minicon Wars, but they got royally stomped when Plasia 1 brought his army into the battle. The Plasians wiped out a third of the Nineton army and would maintain a significant lead ahead of them for some time, as the next general, Plasia 2, would go on to lead one of the most successful campaigns in the war's history, easily trouncing the Ninetons' next generation of warriors. The war raged on, generals rose and fell, and eventually we got to our current standing, with Plasia 5 taking command. He has every advantage as he takes charge. The Plasians have a vast array of unique weaponry that the other armies just don't have. From godly axes that can be recalled to their users, to special regenerative webbing launchers for enhanced movement, to crossbows made from a mysterious destructive new alloy. They are more well-armed than near any other army. They're ready to fight like a well-oiled machine, but are they too cocky? Have their years in the lead made them soft? We'll soon see. Now, something you might be able to get from the proportions I'm doing on this character, you might get the vibe that I kind of wanted to make this a female character, but I didn't. Like, as I said, the PlayStation 5 gives me that more lean, sleek, elegant, futuristic kind of look, so I knew I wanted to make this character a bit thinner and leaner, and give it some, like, big forearms and lower legs to change the proportions, but overall keep it a bit on the skinnier side. And I also knew I wanted to make things a little bit more rounded because the PlayStation 5 has a bit of a curve to it. So overall, I was trying to make this look a little bit more futuristic and sleek. And because of that, that had kind of made me want to go with a female character, and I had thought about using Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn as the head of this one, but she's just not quite as iconic as Kratos. And I mean, this doesn't look that much like Kratos, but there was a bit more iconic stuff to pull from his face that I could easily translate into a Transformer, more so than Aloy, because he's got that paint streak on his face, he's bald, he's got a beard, and I could sort of work all of those elements in a way. I do still really like how this one turned out, but I think in terms of the head, it might have gotten across the vibe I wanted more if I had made it a female character, maybe tried to make it look a bit like Aloy, but overall I'm still very happy with this one. Also, you'll notice that the weapon I gave him isn't Kratos' axe from the PS4 God of War game. I went with a weapon a little bit more inspired by Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank, because I worked in elements from 2 different games in the last drawing, so I thought I should do that with this one as well. Despite being conflicted about whether I should have made this a female or male character, I still love how it turned out, and I hope you all do as well. Here's Plasia 5. Quickly jumping in to say that for this episode, because I knew I was going to be spending longer on all these drawings and I wanted to make them really great, I formatted them all to work well as posters. So all 3 of the drawings in this episode are available as posters on my Teespring store, most likely at the time this video is going out. There should be a little bar underneath this video and under all my videos with a bunch of my posters, but if you click into it, you can go to the full store and see all of the posters I have available from this video and past videos. So yeah, if you want Minicon console posters, you can get them there. Anyway, sorry for the interruption, let's jump back into the artwork. While the Xbots and Plasians are bringing on new generals, they are coming up against a seasoned one, who's been fighting strong for the Ninetons for years. But before we talk about him, we should take a step back, farther than we've gone thus far, to when the Ninetons joined and essentially helped start the Minicon Wars. There had been battles prior to the Ninetons engaging. Long since past groups like the Atarax and the Kellycons had been feuding for some time, but the Ninetons starting to fight is when many consider the war to have truly begun. Their first general, Kratos, hit hard with an army far more vast than that of any competitor. The Sagons would make a strong comeback, as the Ninetons' second general would come to power, but as we've discussed previously, the Sagons wouldn't last much longer, and ended up merging under the Ninetons. One way that the Ninetons would solidify their place as a force to be reckoned with was when they developed a soldier specific for hand-to-hand combat. A smaller, more agile group of Ninetons that could get up close and personal and do serious damage to foes who weren't prepared for an up-close duel. They'd train many iterations of these warriors who would be key in helping them in many major battles. Down the road, they would even appoint a sub-general in Theratos, who would eventually be promoted to Theratos Maxus, who would lead these even minier minicons. The Plasians eventually caught on to the need for hand-to-hand warriors and trained their own regime of Plasian portabots, who were indeed formidable, but as they tried to further improve them, their vitality only waned, and eventually fell to Theratos Maxus' forces. Then, after many ups and downs, there was a major slump in the Ninetons' war efforts. The Ninetons had attempted to train a new warrior who was the ultimate fighter in both ranged and hand-to-hand combat. Their first attempt at this failed, and failed miserably, but the moons of Cybertron were rocked years later by the rise of General Switchoff. He was the perfect blended warrior that the Ninetons had been struggling to make, a descendant of the old General Kratos, but trained and modified for all the necessities of modern combat. He surely had reinvigorated the Ninetons' efforts, but now he is about to face two new, very powerful generals in Plasia 5 and Xbot X, both of whom are larger and, in all honesty, are much stronger. The future is truly unknowable. Well, except for by the likes of Frisbus and Doc Lorian, I suppose, but to the minicons, the war is still anyone's to be won. But besides their best efforts, these bots are all really fighting for second place, as the great General Premia Compass sits on the sidelines laughing, knowing she'll always have true dominance over the minicons. I'm honestly super curious how many of the weird references I built into that war will be recognized by people who know things about the video game console wars. I mean, obviously I changed names around to make them sound more like Transformers names, but honestly I had a lot of fun writing that bit. In terms of design elements for this one, I didn't think as much about this one because I just kind of had a decent idea right off the bat, and I was thinking more about the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 because they are the new consoles that have come out. I'd thought up pretty early on, okay, Mario is the most iconic Nintendo character, arguably, and the Switch already has some Mario colors, so I'll make a Mario-esque Transformer. I made the head of the character bigger on this one so that the actual character itself would feel a little bit smaller because the Switch is smaller than the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. And then the rest of the body I kind of just went with my instincts besides working in a few little Nintendo Switch kind of elements. So this one is admittedly the one I thought through the least, but overall I'm still pretty happy with it. Although I guess for this one I didn't work in two different characters like I did with the other drawings. I kind of just worked in Mario. Might have been cool for me to work in Link's sword or maybe Samus's arm cannon kind of thing, although we don't have a Metroid game for the Switch yet. I'm really hoping that comes sometime soon. Anyway, this isn't my favorite design of the video, but I'm still super happy with how this one came together as well, and I hope you all like it too. Here is the Ninetons' current leader, Switch Off. You know, it's funny, even though I own a Nintendo Switch and I plan on getting a PlayStation 5, my favorite artwork of this video ended up being the Xbot. I really like drawing that Master Chief helmet. Maybe I gotta do some Halo art on this channel. I mean, I do have a bunch of video game ideas mapped out for this month, and I've already done some with my famous video game characters as Beasts episode. And now I'm thinking maybe it could be cool to do an episode with some of the older generations of consoles, like a Nintendo 64 Transformer, the original PlayStation. I mean, I've already kind of written them into the lore. But I don't know, give me suggestions in the comments below. And if you want more Transformers stuff, I've got 2 episodes of turning famous vehicles into Transformers, and 2 episodes of Justice League Transformers, which kind of kicked off the Transformers art that I do on this channel. Anyway, Anyway, everybody, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Christian Pearson. This has been PopCross Studios, home of the nerdiest art videos on YouTube. It's been a great run of viewers and subscribers in the last little while. Thank you so much again to everyone for watching. It's super cool to see the channel growing. And hopefully I'll see you all in the next video on Monday, which will probably also be video game related. Anyway, goodbye.